What's going on, guys? If you made it to the end of the last video, you should have a secret room that looks like this one. It's a little bit like kind of like a dreamy portal secret room, and this is probably not the final state of the secret room. We're going to be making a lot of changes, and there's going to be multiple possibilities, so it's not just always going to be the same exact secret room. There could be different variations of it, right? So to keep it interesting, when you go into the room, you shouldn't know what you're going to find, right? It should always be different. So in my other game, I added a scroll to the secret room, and what's going to happen is when you walk into the scroll, it will give you, like, he's going to pick it up the same way he picks up the items in the item room, and it will give you like a clue for what happened to Sticky, right? And it's going to be in like a poem, or not poem, riddle kind of format. And yeah, it's really cool, and I'm working on that. But if you didn't follow the last video, you can download all these special effects from the last video for free. You don't have to do any work. You could just download them and add them to a game, put them into like a room format. In this video, we're going to be drawing an X on the wall. So right now, this is not the way the secret room is supposed to work. So there should be an X on the wall to signify like, oh, there's a secret here, right? And then you could throw a grenade at it and blow it up. So we don't have grenades yet, so we're going to be really improvising in this case. Also, our walls are not, we haven't changed them at all yet. We're not going to be leaving these flat walls in the final version of the game. So the X is going to be really visible. So on a flat wall, you could just technically add a quad, right? But the X that I'm going to show you is going to be like a projection or a decal, I guess, in this case. And you're going to be putting it on any object. Like if your object is rounded, or like if it's like a different shaped object, you could still draw like an X on the side of it. You could draw actually any picture you could put on the side of any 3D object, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And that's going to be the first thing we do. Depending on how long that takes, that might be the only thing we do in this video. If we have time, I'll also make the explosion. So like when there's an X, you could throw a grenade in it. In this case, we're just going to attack it because we don't have a grenade yet, and obviously I can't put a grenade in the same video as this one. But yeah, we're going to get started. If you guys are enjoying the series so far, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, okay, so I'm going to try to run through this as fast as I can because this is actually more complicated than you think it is. So drawing a decal, you actually have to enable it in the universal render pipeline before you can actually turn it on, right? So it's not as easy as just creating the effect and adding it to the wall. You have to actually enable the settings to allow you to do it. So if you go to the edit menu at the top and you go to project settings, inside of the graphics tab on the left, it should tell you which pipeline you're using, URP high fidelity, right? In this case, right? If you click on this, it should go to where it is in your project at the bottom. So after you've clicked on this, make sure you've memorized which one it was. In my case, it's high fidelity, and this is the default unless you've changed the default. Inside of high fidelity, turn on the depth and the opaque texture. They're going to be off by default, turn them on. And then in the renderer, below this, there's like a add render feature at the bottom. You need to click this and click decal. If you don't do this, your decal won't show up. Okay, so this is the first step that you need to do. And yeah, so you're just basically enabling decals. They're turned off by default because it takes performance, right? So if you're making a mobile game or something like that, then maybe this is not the best way. Maybe you'll use a quad or something else, right? So at the bottom here, where we've created these other secret room effects, we're just going to create another secret room effect. So right click and create a visual effect graph. If you don't have visual effect graph enabled, go follow the last video. I'm not going to be showing how to enable this every single time I create a visual effect graph because it's going to be almost every video that I make. So if you don't have that enabled, if you watch the secret room video, I showed you how to enable it, and you could go follow that. After you've created it, you can drag it into the scene, and we're just going to put it close to whatever, like wherever we want to draw this onto, we're just going to put it close to it. Okay. So in this case, we're going to put it close to the corner. So that way it will pick a wall and we'll know what direction it's facing. And so this is good. And then we'll just double click on it to zoom in. Okay. So the goal of this is to draw an X on the wall, and the X signifies a secret in the game, The Binding of Isaac. And it's going to signify a secret in our game as well. Okay. So I've already drawn an X. So this is going to be attached to the video. Really quickly, it's so easy to draw an X. Like, you don't need to copy this. If you open Sketchbook, which you can download from the internet for free, you can just make an X, right? So like this, and then like this, and obviously spend more time making it perfect and using different brushes and stuff like that. And then after you're done drawing it, you have to turn off the background. Very important that you turn off the background. If you don't see the layer editor, you can go to the window drop down here and just turn on the layer editor and then turn off the background and then save it as a PNG file. So when you click save as, there's like a drop down at the bottom, change it to PNG, and then you could save it like that, right? So you can make your own X if you want to, or you can copy the one. There's going to be one in the description of the video, but like I said, like if you're going to add your own stuff to your game, you should probably do it yourself. Anyway, so after you drag it into your game, make sure you change it to a sprite and press apply. The one that I upload to a video, the video will already be a sprite, so you probably won't have to do that. But yeah, so then if you double click on draw X, which is the visual effect graph that we made, you can drag it away and we'll move it the same way we did in the last video, where we have the graph on the right and then the visual of what's happening on the left here, right? So instead of having an output particle quad, which is these particles that are coming away from the start, like the origin of like the particle system, we're going to delete that. So if you just click it, you can press delete and we'll go, and then you can drag down a output decal. So just type in the word decal and it should be a forward decal, right? And then you could drag this X rock that we just put into the game onto the slot here. And then above this, we just want to turn off the velocity and the lifetime random. We don't want a velocity or like a lifetime. We want this to live forever. That X should be there until we blow it up or we hit it with something, right? And then if we click spacebar here, we can set the size and make sure you just have this selected and then press space and then set size. And then we're just going to set this to like 5 or 1. It looks like 5 is too big. So we can see it drew something here, but it's barely visible. Maybe 0.5. No, it's because it's oriented the wrong direction. So what we want to do is at the bottom here in the forward decal, press the spacebar and type in set color. And we're just going to make it black for now so we can actually see it on the ground, right? So this looks like it came out as a single line, and that's because it's too close to the wall or whatever it's trying to draw on, and it's the wrong direction. So change it to 90 in the X axis in the transform. And that's it, right? So this will draw on any object. This is super important because if you have an object that's not flat, this is the way that you can make it draw on the not flat object. So let me just actually put this down here, right? So like, let's say there's a sphere on the ground and you want the X or whatever to be drawn on it, like a decal. Think about, you ever play Counter-Strike 1.6 and you kill someone and you do like that spray paint and it like puts it on anything? That's what we're doing, right? It's a decal. So this is really good because you could use this for a secret rock, a secret room, secret anything, and you can draw any image on any object, which could be important for other things, right? Like it's not always going to be this. So the next thing we need to do is you just change the capacity to 1. It doesn't need to draw 32 of them, and we'll just make the rate 1 as well. And then I think if we click on draw X, there's other settings here. So on the right, just change this to always recompute bounds and simulate. And then in the pre-warm pre-step count, we just want to make this like 15. And then let's save it again. That way it's drawn instantly. It should just draw immediately. We don't want to have to wait, because if you walk into the room and there's an X on the wall, we don't want it to appear after a period of time. It should just be like immediate. Okay, so I mean, that's it for drawing an X. So what we want to do now is we actually want to put the X on the wall. So change it back to 0 in the X axis. And then we want to move it back over to the wall, and we're just going to move it up a little bit. And then we just need to put this in a spot where it will make sense, right? So like it doesn't really matter wherever you want to put it. In the actual game itself, like in my game, for example, there's going to be rock walls. It's not going to be like this flat wall. So when you draw an X on the wall, and your wall is completely flat and there's no other like details on the wall, obviously it's very easy to see that the X is there, right? Like you won't miss that. But in the actual game, when you have a rock wall that has textures on it and there's different stuff to it, it will be harder to see. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is actually change the color mapping of the decal to gradient mapped. This will allow you to change the color of the decal itself. So we're actually going to delete all these keys, and we're just going to make it like black for right now, right? And we want to actually change the whole thing. Oh, no, you can't do that. Change the whole thing to a lighter color, right? Because right now, in this game anyway, this is way too easy to see, right? And we want this to be a little bit more challenging than that. So in our actual game, when we put this onto a rock or something, we'll change this color to just be visible. Like it should just be barely visible on the wall. So this is not, we got to change both of these. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually take the color from the wall itself. So this makes it completely invisible, and then let's slowly drag it away from this. There you go. Now, I don't even know if you can see this in the recording, right? But this is not visible on the screen at all. So there's like a dropper tool that you can use to pick the color from the object. I was having trouble getting the right color, but yeah, you can see like there's an X there, but it's like barely visible. So from a top-down view, you can't even really see it. And that's the whole point. You're supposed to have to look really hard to actually see the rock. Now I'm going to turn it up a little bit just because I don't care about not being able to, I want to be able to see it because this is a test, right? Yeah, so there it is right there. So we can leave it like that. So for this, we're just going to actually make it completely black in both of them. But this is how you would make it more invisible. If you actually wanted to like blend it in with something, there's like a gradient mapped color option that you can use to change this. Okay, so I'm going to import the explosion from the other game. So this is very, very challenging to make this. And I don't think this is going to be an hour-long video, and it's just going to be way too long. This explosion is going to be attached to the video for free. So there's going to be like a package in the description of the video. When you download it, it looks exactly like this. If you double click on it, it opens like this, right? And then we just click import. Now you should take some time and clean up the folder structure that it also is importing, right? So it just added a bunch of folders to your game, like imported models, enemies, bosses, Mr. Trainman, train room shaders, all these folders. This is all garbage. So you could take this falling rock model and you could just drag it into the effects. We're working on the secret room right now. Drag it into the secret room folder, and then you could actually delete this whole structure, right? This imported models structure. Let me just make sure I'm not going to lose anything. Yeah, so delete this folder altogether. And then I think that, where is the explosion? Hang on. I don't know where I put it. Secret room explosion. So it's assets, scripts. Why is it in scripts? I don't know why I put it there. So scripts, secret room. This doesn't have any scripts in it. So drag this explosion into the secret rooms folder on the left here. And then we can delete this secret room folder. My other project is a spaghetti mess, by the way. So you should really organize your folder structure at the bottom. Otherwise, you're going to have the same problem. So if we drag the secret room explosion into the game, let's hit play again. So it's way too big, okay? My other project, the scale is massive, right? So what we want to do is on the left here, we're going to enable the constrain properties, which makes all of these scale at the same pace. And we're just going to drag it down to like maybe 0.1 of that. And let's hit play on that. Okay, so maybe 0.2. So like, and let's just try like 0.3. Yeah, that's looking decent. So we want to make a prefab out of this, right? So when you hit this X on the wall, we want to blow that up, and then we want to create a portal there. So it should probably be, yeah, so when you hit it, it will spawn it at the location. So it doesn't matter where you put it here. But I'm going to go through this visual effect really quickly. This is very complicated to make this, so I don't expect that everyone will follow along with this. But if you've been following so far, I mean, it's not really that crazy. It's very similar to some of the other stuff we've already done. So let's open it up so you can see what's happening here. So let's put this on the left, the way we did before. And when you press save, it should blow up. The first thing we have is a burst of particles. It's 500 particles. So instead of having a constant spawn rate, which is what we've had all this time, if you delete the constant spawn rate, you can press the space bar and type in the word burst, and you could create a single burst, which will create a burst of particles, obviously. Since we're bursting 500 particles, we set the capacity to be the same because it's only one burst. We're setting the shape of the particles into a sphere with these settings down here. So if you click the drop downs, you can copy the settings. I mean, you're downloading this anyway, so you don't need to do that, but we're setting the scale to 1 by 1. Actually, we didn't use this, so this can even get deleted. That's not relevant. We're We're setting the size to be a random between 1 and 15. We're setting the velocity to be a random between 0. And then we're taking the position of where the particle is, which is what we did in the last video with the secret room. And then we're multiplying it by a vector that goes outwards more in X and Z, which is like around, and Y, it goes up. So it goes up double as high. So if we, let me see if I can pause this so you can see, hang on. So if we click on this and we press play and we press pause, so this is the particles. So these little orange dots, they're the particles. They're going up higher in the y-axis by double than they are going in X and Z, which is like the way around it. So they go up higher than they're going in the circular direction around them. The lifetime is from 0.1 to 1. So it's an explosion, right? So this blows up and disappears because the portal has to appear at the same time as this is blowing up. And the portal has to be visible. Like you want to see it expanding and you don't want these particles to just be like floating on the screen for too long. There's nothing in the update particle. And then we're facing the camera plane. This is the default. And then these things down here, I have them turned off. Let's just delete them. Those are like color and size over life. We don't actually need those. Okay, so this is the explosion of like the red particles that are in the middle, or the orange particles, I guess. And then this is the same thing on the right side, except for we are using a mesh as the output. So let's just go through it. So it's still 500 particles, which it could probably be less because meshes are more expensive performance-wise than particles are, right? Because it's like an actual mesh, and the mesh is pretty dense triangle-wise. So yeah, we're not going to really go into that, but it's the same arc sphere as before. The scale, we've actually used the scale, so it's a random scale. So each of the rocks that comes out, they're a random like in the X, Y, and Z. So they're not just random size. So there's a difference between random size and random scale. Scale is like all three of the X, Y, and Z are all random. So you can see that all the rocks are different sizes, right? And then we're setting the angle to be random on all sides because this is not just a picture, it's actually an object. So we can random it on all directions. So all of them are in a rotated randomly in size. Then we're setting the velocity from 0, but it's to 32. So it's the same exact method this time, except for we're doing 16 and 32. So the rocks are going faster than the explosion by double. So they're going away faster because the fiery part should be in the middle and then the rock should be on the very outside. Again, the lifetime is the same. And then we're using a shader to draw on these rocks, okay? So without the shader, they just look like gray, like the default color, and it kind of looks like shit, right? So I've created a shader for this, right? So to create a shader, what you can do is if you right click in the open space at the bottom, you can create a shader graph, URP lit shader graph, right? And if you double click on this shader, all it is a Fresnel effect, right? Let me just drag this up here so they're closer together. It's a Fresnel effect plus a gradient, and then it goes into the base color. That's all it is, right? So to create any of these nodes, you just right click and click create node. This F power is 2. So you could just set the power to 2 here because you're probably not going to use this anywhere else in your game, but I'm using this in multiple different things. So you can turn on the blackboard and create a variable if you want to. But again, if you import this, you should have this automatically. You shouldn't have to do anything, but just a Fresnel effect is like the inside is dark and the outside is white. And you can see that on the rocks. So let's close this. We'll save it. So if you look at the rock, based on where the camera is, rocks have like white on the inside and then like they're dark on the outside. It's hard to explain what the Fresnel effect is. You can Google it, but it makes them look really cool. And that's what I have as the shader for my actual rock walls themselves as well. So that's how I created this effect where it blows up. I didn't think that I should create this from scratch in this just because like it would probably take a long time. And making it look perfect also took a long time. I changed some other settings in this as well. In the fireball thing at the bottom here, you can see that there's no things here, but it's colored. We're using a shader graph for that as well. That one's a little bit more challenging. I made a whole video on how to do the fireball effect, like the entire fireball effect. We did a whole video on that. I'm gonna link that at the very end of the video, okay? So I'm not gonna go through this too much, but I'll show you the shader graph. And yeah, it's just like we're taking this picture, but we're adding a gradient to it so that the inside is like a lighter like a high intensity lighter color. And then the outside is, yeah, I'm not going to go through this. Like I said, it's very cool effect. I'm going to link the fireball video at the end. So if you want, you can go watch the fireball video and learn how to do that. But we're using a shader here. What I wanted to show you though, is that inside of the shader graph, if you go into the graph inspector, we've got this depth test always here. Okay. This is super important. What this does is it means that it will always draw on top of everything else. So if there's anything else in the scene, like a character or another attack or an enemy or a wall or anything else, this will always draw over top of it. So if it goes through, like if any of the fire parts go through the wall, you'll still see them. It will always draw them, right? So like in the explosion, let me see if I can progress this explosion a little bit further. So like, oh no, this is the rate. Crap, let's hit play and ooh, we'll just do it again. Hang on, play. So you can see these red fireballs. This one, for example, is behind the wall. Like you can see it's behind the wall, right? But you can see it through the wall because we have turned on always. Always means you'll always see it no matter where it is and what it is. And we've set both the rock and the fireball to always draw. This can only be done in the shader, or if you're not using a shader, you can, if you click on the output, there will be an option for it there. So that's pretty much it for the explosion. Like I said, you can download it from the description of the video and you can just go through it and like investigate it and change the numbers and play around with it if you want to. So I'm gonna just press stop on this or play and then yeah, just leave it. So now we want to make a prefab out of this, right? So if we go back into the secret room folder, we're going to drag this explosion into the folder at the bottom here and we're going to create a prefab out of it. So then we're going to delete it from the scene. So when we hit this X, which it needs to have a box collider on it or some type of collider. So let's add a collider. When you hit this X with an attack, we want it to blow up with the thing, right? So let's just put this around it for now. This is not how it's going to work. Next video, we're going to be showing you how to add the actual secret room to the game, right? So like we have to pick a spot for it on the map and there has to be no door there and it has to be at the middle. That's pretty difficult to actually do that. So we're going to be doing that in the next video. But for right now, we're just going to make it so when we hit this with our attack, it will blow up. So we need to go into the spell script for the player, right? So when our player does an attack, it has a spell script attached to it. So let's find that down here. Okay, so right now on collision enter, it just plays the explosion for the game object and then it destroys the game object, right? But if we hit the X, we don't want it to do that, right? So if the collision dot name collider dot name is draw X, which we're leaving on the wall for right now, but we're going to be drawing that manually later. We're going to be instantiating that using a different way. We're going to instantiate the explosion, right? So to instantiate the explosion, we need to import the explosion into spell. So we're actually going to put the explosion into the level class. Okay, so it's going to be a static thing because we don't want to be adding anything into the attack prefab. If we did it the way that I was about to do it, you would have to drag it into every single attack and there's going to be like hundreds of attacks, right? So we can't do that. So let's just do secret room explosion. And then, so if we're adding it to the level, then we need to go to the initialize player script and we need to import it here. So public game object, secret room explosion. And then down here, we need to set level dot secret room explosion is equal to secret room explosion. So then after you've saved that, we need to, oh, this isn't going to work because the compilation is going to fail because of the spell script is not done. So let's just comment this instantiate out for now. And then in the player, we just need to drag that explosion into the slot in the initialized player. So we didn't, it looks like we didn't save. Let's hit save, save all. Yeah, so at the bottom, just type in explosion so you can find your explosion that you made. And then it's called secret room explosion. And we're just gonna drag that, oh, sorry, the prefab, the secret room explosion, the one that has a blue icon, not, this is the visual effect. This is the prefab that we made, right? So now that we have dragged that prefab into the secret room explosion slot, we can access it via the level static class, right? So we'll type in level dot secret room explosion, and then we want to draw it at the position of where we hit, right? So we'll do collision dot collider dot position, or transform dot position. And the rotation, it could actually just be quaternion dot identity. It doesn't matter. It's a spherical. Oh, the Y has to be up. Let's just try it like this and see what happens. So if our attack hits this, we want to instantiate this explosion that we made, right? We also want to destroy the explosion. So we don't want it to stay around in our game forever. Is it game object destroy? And then we'll destroy this game object that we're making after, it could be 10 seconds or 5 seconds. It doesn't matter, right? So we're destroying. This is, so instantiate creates a game object in the scene, which is the explosion. The explosion should play when it's instantiated automatically, right? Because it's play on awake. When we instantiate this explosion, it should blow up, and then it will destroy itself after 5 seconds, and then the attack will destroy itself as well. We want to destroy the thing that we hit though as well. So on top of creating this explosion, we want to destroy the thing that we collided with. So collision game object dot destroy collision dot game object. So that X that's on the wall, we only want to be able to blow it up one time. Okay, so when we hit it with this, it will destroy the X on the wall, and it will create this explosion, and then it will destroy it after 5 seconds. If you don't destroy it, it will still not show anything, but it'll show up in your hierarchy and will be there forever, right? So let's go ahead and try this. So we don't have a bomb yet, so obviously we can't do it the bomb route. That would be better, but let's just try to hit this with an attack and see what happens. Yeah, so you can see, let me just do it again because I think my attack was like tealed out because it didn't load before. Let me just do a couple attacks. Yeah, so if we hit this, it blows up into an explosion. Now, what we would do now is we would spawn that secret room door that we made in the previous video. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to save that for the next video. So in the next video, we're going to be drawing that X on the wall based on, oh, there's this sphere in this scene still. Let me delete that. But we're going to draw this on the wall based on the where it finds out, like, there's a blank spot on the map. So the way that's going to work, right, is it's going to take all of the rooms that have less than 3 and less on the X and the Y axis, and it's going to find one that has a hole and there's no other rooms beside it. And then it's going to memorize that the secret room is there. And then when you enter the room, it will do a raycast from the center of the room in each of the directions, or sorry, in the direction of the secret room. And it will only hit things that have the wall layer. So each of these walls is on a layer, right? These walls are going to be on a special layer for the walls, so it will only hit the walls, right? So if there's anything in the way, it won't hit them because the raycast is affected by layers. So it will raycast from the center of the room towards the wall, and wherever it hits, that's where it will instantiate the game object that draws the X, which we're going to make a prefab out of this. We don't have time for that today. This video is already really long, and I'm trying to make these videos a little bit shorter. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I hope I see you guys in the next one.